can't help me with the microphone from down there.
Would you say you're 86? I'm hoping by now, but I don't have the microphone most of the time.
I think we have better mics. I hope. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our 2024 La Quinta City Council Candidate Forum. My name is Virginia Nelson. I'll be your moderator this evening. I am a parishioner and also a volunteer for various ministries and projects here at St. Francis of Assisi. Full disclosure, I am not a resident of La Quinta.
We're still working on that.
I know. Well, I'm adjacent. I'm adjacent to Bermuda Dunes. This is a wonderful city, and of course I care what happens here. I do not get to cast a vote for the La Quinta candidates or any initiatives, nor do I have any bias one way or another. Also, St. Francis of Assisi Parish does not support or endorse any candidate or platform. This event is offered as a public service to our community, and all are welcome. And by the way, that's every day, not just today. Today's event will be live streamed on the St. Francis of Assisi YouTube channel, and that can be accessed via our website or directly on YouTube. Now for a brief review of the format and some guidelines for tonight's forum. For the audience, if you would please keep electronic devices in silent mode or turn them off. We ask the audience to remain quiet during the forum in order to be respectful to our candidates and to other attendees. There will be time at the conclusion of the forum for you to meet and discuss topics more individually with the candidates. The hall will remain open for a reasonable time, but no later than 8 o'clock. You are welcome to submit questions in writing. We will review them to include them as appropriate or as time allows. For the candidates, all candidates were notified and acknowledged receiving the format structure 10 days ahead of the event. Prior to the start of the event, a random draw was conducted in public view to determine the order of sequence to speak in each round. Every candidate will have the opportunity to speak first as well as last in this sequence. Each candidate will be allowed 2.5 minutes for an opening statement and 2.5 minutes for a closing statement. For each round with questions in between, you are allowed 2 minutes to respond. Your time will be visible in countdown mode on the monitor. You are not required to use your total time allotted, however, it will not carry over. Participants are asked to stay on topic and within the time allotted. So let's begin our main event. There are 5 candidates who qualified to be on the 2024 ballot. We are fortunate and grateful that all of them are willing and able to be here tonight, and I understand there was another event earlier today, so thank you for your stamina. You should be nice and warmed up for this one. There are 2 candidates for mayor, which is a 2-year term, and of course only one will be elected. There are 3 candidates for 2 open city council seats, and these are a 4-year term. The sequence to answer as randomly drawn is shown by their seating position. And in the interest of fairness, and we made an intentional effort at this, and since we have an uneven number of participants, we have conducted another random draw for the candidate to start for opening and for closing statements. So now let's meet our candidates. We have Linda Evans, the incumbent, and seeking a 6th term as mayor. Robert Silk is a challenger for mayor. The candidates for 2 council seats, Steve Sanchez, an incumbent and seeking a 3rd term. Kathleen Fitzpatrick, she is an incumbent also seeking a 3rd term. And Joe Johnson, a challenger for one of the council seats. All right, we are ready for our opening statements. Our timekeeper, my wingman here, is Les. Thank you, Les. Please set the clock to 2.5 minutes for the opening statements. And our random draw for the opening statements, we begin with Mr. Steve Sanchez.
Oh, perfect. Testing. Can they hear me? No. No. This is for that, right?
Oh, that's a live stream. Oh, we don't touch that one? We just talk? We can just talk?
It's without that mic.
Oh, okay. Is this for that?
That's what the live stream
Okay.
is.
Didn't know that.
Should I speak up? Or? You good? Good? Okay. I got it. Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay. Testing. All right. All right. Timer, let's do it. Good evening, everyone. Steve Sanchez here, incumbent current city council member for the great city of La Quinta. I want to thank, first of all, the church for hosting this great event for the community. I think it's a vital, important part of our system of government, our republic, to allow for civic engagement from our community. So thank you for providing the forum. Thank you for all of you for being here and those that are in attendance via YouTube. And for the candidates here for mayor and city council, thank you for being a part of the process as well. It keeps the republic going. Steve Sanchez, for those of you who know me, or don't know me, a little bit about me, grew up in Jersey, enlisted in the Marine Corps. I know we have a few veterans and veteran families here. Ended up in California, which is how I stayed in the desert, 8 years in the Marine Corps. Through my civic duties and volunteering and community, I ended up in La Quinta, and then eventually joined the city council. It's been an honor to serve my community. We have a beautiful city. I moved here on purpose because I knew we had great councils in the past, and when I ran for office, what was it, 8 years ago? Most people want to run because they want to change something. I remember when I ran because I wanted to keep things that work. Progress forward, but keep things that work. The beauty, the aesthetics, the budget, the revenue, the success of our city. I wanted to keep that momentum going. And I have to say, the last 8 years, I think between the mayor and this council, we've continued that progress. We've continued successfully balancing our budgets. We've allocated reserves for both emergency, capital improvements, and just general fund use. You look at our parks, they're beautiful. Our tourists love visiting La Quinta. Our businesses love staying in La Quinta. And quite frankly, our residents love being a part of La Quinta. As your council member, I hope to earn your trust and support for another 4 years and continue this momentum that we have. Let's keep the ship going in the right direction. Thank you.
Excited to be here. Appreciate the church for sponsoring the forum and for Virginia to moderate us again. It is an honor and a privilege to serve the residents of the city of Quinta. We've had a very good set of the last 8 years. We were very fortunate when the residents approved Measure G in 2016, allowing us to do some of the things that Steve talked about. We balance our $80 million budget every year. We set aside healthy reserves for lots of things that need to be sure that we're protected for, environmental disasters, economic disasters. We've used money during COVID to support our local businesses during the shutdown. We've also had the opportunity to do major improvements to our landscape medians north of Highway 111. Also moving forward in South La Quinta as well, where we've done Avenue 52 and Jefferson. These are the things that our residents appreciate as part of their quality of life, and the things that I want to continue to see happen in the city. I'm excited to continue for another 4 years. We have lots of things left to do. We're looking at a Highway 111 vision plan. We're looking at our repaving of Highway 111. We're looking at continuing with some of our stormwater management plans in the future. There are lots of things happening, and there are things happening that I want us to be part of. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to ask for your support in a third term, and I appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Joe Johnson. I apologize for not getting up and having this little apparatus here, but I had 2 heart attacks in the last couple of weeks, so they want me on this stuff and as I recover. But in case you don't know who I am, I want to give you a little background. Grew up in New York, went to NYU, moved to California, went into business. I was a manufacturer's rep, then built my own agency, representing companies throughout Southern California, different manufacturers. When imports started taking over, I went back to school and I went to the MBA program at Pepperdine and realized from that I better get out of that really quick. So I went to law school at age 46, went to law school, finished law school, But while I was finishing law school, I realized I really didn't want to be a lawyer. So I found a job at Consumer Affairs in Los Angeles County as an investigator. And that's where I hit my stride. I was able to become the supervising investigator for all the different units they had at one time or another. Consumer protection, real estate fraud, small claims, identity theft, and mediation. With mediation, I also became a mediator with the LA Superior Court, both the volunteer and their pay panels. So I've been doing mediation now for almost 25 years. As an investigator, I've had a lot of big cases that were inter-county, including Riverside County, so I'm familiar with the Riverside DA, Mike Hestron, and his lower people, because we work together on regular cases all the time. Moved to La Quinta because I thought La Quinta, and I still agree, is the nicest city out here. In fact, of all the places in California, this is my favorite. So that's why I moved here. I could have moved anywhere, I came here because I love it. And I love mostly the people, because they have such a nice mix of all different kinds of people, different economics, different ethnicities, and it's just very cohesive and really nice, and I love it. And I'm running out of time.
There's plenty more.
Hello everyone. I remember being here 2 years ago, and the food was terrific then too, and the coffee. For those of you that might not know me, my name is Robert Sill, and I've been involved in the last 20 years here in the Chamber of Commerce, worked my way up to a city commissioner, and ran for council one time. Can't beat these good-looking incumbents, though. I'll tell you, it's very hard. But I keep trying. We don't agree on anything, and I feel that nobody should run unopposed. So that's why I continue to do it. But for the reasons that I care about this city very, very much. And in the last few years, I think we've been going into a direction that I'm not too comfortable with. Of course, all the publicity that you've heard about Silver Rock Resort and Talus, and that there might be some questions that Virginia has for us regarding that. But to tell you about some history about myself, I'm from Philadelphia, and I moved out here for business reasons, and moved to settle in Marina Del Rey. I was an honorary mayor there. I was appointed to Bob Hope's USO at LAX Airport on his board for 10 years because I'm an Army veteran during Vietnam. And the governor appointed me to several positions on beaches and harbors and things of that nature. And worked my way out here to La Quinta in 2002, and immediately joined the Chamber of Commerce and started to get things done in the right direction. I'm a little conflicted because I know the people that are on council and I like them, but I think that we're going in a little wrong direction. Hopefully we can turn that around. I feel that not only with Silver Rock Resort, but with some of our other developers that ask for permits to build developments, that we're not scrutinizing them good enough, that they have proof of funds up front. We should always find out if they have the money to finish the project, not just enough to start it. I'll probably speak about that later. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. All right, ready? Hi, Linda Evans. I have been your mayor since 2014, and I feel honored and privileged to be able to represent La Quinta and all of the 41,000 residents in our gem of the desert. A little bit about my background. I've lived in the desert since 2003. I was born in California. Originally was transferred out here for my hospital job. I worked for Desert Care Network and have been with the parent company tenant for about 30 years. and was involved in the Chamber of Commerce and disease boards, right? Heart Association, Cancer Society, when you work for a hospital, that's what you do. And then I ventured into Chamber of Commerce, and then somebody said, you should try it for city council, you can make a bigger impact in the community. So I had an opportunity to be appointed in 2009 when a position became open, and then campaigned in 2010, and decided halfway through that 4-year term that I needed to be mayor of the city. So I started introducing myself as a future mayor of La Quinta, and I've been the mayor ever since. So thank you very much for your confidence in your vote. I will say that one of the roles of our positions is we're very city-focused as well as regional-focused. All of us are assigned different committees and commissions throughout the valley. I serve on the Tourism Hospitality Board with Visit Greater Palm Springs, the Conservation Commission, the Coachella Valley Association of Governments Executive Committee, and the Energy and Sustainability Committee. I'm on the Palm Springs Air Museum. That's kind of a volunteer thing. Served on the Fine Food Bank, La Quinta Rotarian, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple other ones that we'll probably get to based on the questions. But I say that because it's not just 2 meetings a month. It's constant communication, in addition to a full-time job, and then giving yourself to all of these other committees and commissions to work collaboratively against and with our 9 cities. We don't always agree on things, but we collectively work on transportation, public safety, all of those. And I just think that I just was reading in this fiscal policy that La Quinta was rated top 10 in fiscal health. We got a 97 out of 100 in the score out of all the cities in California. And I pride myself on that, collectively. The few points that we're missing is our pension, our pension plans, unfunded pension, because that's a moving target. Every time the interest rate changes, we owe more money to the state. But otherwise, we're about 90 to 95% there. I look forward to discussing things like our development projects that we either approved or denied and why, our potential for future growth and how revenue is generated, and how we have to preserve that revenue, how we want to work on infrastructure and ensure public safety and overall the quality of life. So thank you very much again for being here.
All right, thank you to all the candidates for your opening comments. And before we begin our rounds of questioning, I saw that our pastor snuck in. Would you like to come up and say hello?
Bless us, Father.
Please everyone, welcome our pastor, Father James McLaughlin.
I just want to thank you for being here. This is a great service that we're having for the community, and we're very grateful. And thank you everyone for being here. I hope you feel comfortable. Don't forget there's food up there if you want some. And just listen attentively and enjoy the evening. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. If you were here Friday night, you would have seen Father in a hard hat with a shovel in his hand.
Literally. Thank you,
Literally.
James. All right, well, let's begin. Our first question, our first topic, we're going to start with Linda Evans. In 2022, there was a ballot initiative in La Quinta named Measure A. We know this did not pass, and the margin was 51% to 49%. So that really illustrates the division of the topic of short-term vacation rentals. City Council at the time went on record in opposition to this measure to phase out and permanently ban short-term vacation rentals in non-exempt areas of the city. There was also a program for special residential events utilized by some of the larger estates. This is a tough issue for many residents. Please clarify for us what the current ordinances and programs are, and tell us how the city is currently managing this or could improve for the overall peace and security of residents.
I'll stay seated for this one just because I've got some notes here I want to do. So yes, our council voted to oppose Measure A, and we had already put a ban on any new permits about a year or so before that. And the only permits that were eligible that were not already grandfathered in were in zoned areas that were tourist commercial, village, Old Town area, and the like going forward, as well as new development that would be building a tract of homes, for example, that goes into that new development under a development agreement whereby up front they identify that that was an option that they would like to do so that it's not impacting residents who did not expect to stay by a short-term rental. The short-term rentals right now, the only ones that have been added to the program since the measure failed, successfully failed, so that we can retain that revenue, is home shares, whereby you might have a casita or a room that you can rent where the owner's there, because that's part of the kind of supervision part.
as well as doing a public hearing process for lots that are over 25,000 square feet. So some of those bigger homes, there are many homes in La Quinta that were kind of built and designed for rentals, family rentals and such, that might have changed ownerships during the pandemic. So they have to go through a special process if they want to have a permit. The difference is short-term rental permits for a residential thing is different than the special event permits. I don't have a short-term rental, but I could pull a special event permit if I wanted a party at my house. There's different rules for those that have rentals because of the restrictions they have to manage and enforce that rental privilege. So at this point in time, we don't have any plans that we're reviewing. We do periodic monitors. Our enforcements have reduced to nearly nothing, the complaints, compared to how heightened it was during the pandemic. And we're monitoring that balance because we made a commitment to keep the ban in place, but work on developments where they were appropriate so that those over time would decrease in total number, maintain the revenue, and give other opportunities to build where they were more appropriate. Thank you. Okay, Steve.
This way?
Yep.
Well,
You're welcome.
I mean, what she said, right? But thank you for that. I'll take the 2 minutes now. Talk about anything else now. But, you know, this is one of those things where I wanted a little bit of something else. Council members, the community, you know, we brought the community, we had a committee, we formed a committee, we brought them in to get their input. Council had some say, mayor had some say, I had some say. I wanted something else. Everybody wanted a little bit of everything, but in the end, we compromised and we have the ordinance that we have now. And it's one of those things where you don't always agree with your fellow colleagues, but you find common ground, whether it's STVRs or any other ordinance. And I have to say the ordinance that we have now is very effective. As the mayor said, it has reduced calls, violations. We've been weeding out the bad players, right? The host families or homes that have really been problematic. So, you know, the ordinance that we have in place has been really successful. We do allow it now with new development. If the developer signs a developer agreement, that way new residents or buyers move into that development from the beginning, know what they're getting into. They know right from the start that this is an STVR approved community or it's not. You know, we always talk about HOA sovereignty. I'm a firm believer that the HOA should have the rights to do their own governance, right? Let's see, I'm trying to catch everything that Virginia said. TOT, it is a huge portion of our TOT revenue. But in the end, as the mayor said, I just have to echo what she was saying, that it's successful, it's working. Can it improve? Everything can always improve better, right? But it's a lot better than what it was, 4 years ago? Or 5 years ago, whatever it was. We're moving in the right direction.
No, he's right. This was probably the most conversation-generating, head-bashing, teeth-gnashing conversation that the five of us have had. And I was kind of way over here, they were kind of sort of over here. And after a lot of conversation and a lot of conversation with our residents, we came to a pretty good compromise, I think. Since 2021, we've been working, as Linda and Steve said, we've reduced our violations by 92%, and most of those violations are administrative. They're not noise, parking, trash, the kinds of things that concern you. But my concern was always how neighborhoods were impacted by STVRs. I don't want our residents being the first responders to a problem. So that's why this ordinance works. We've gotten it to a point where people who have permits understand the permits. They don't want to lose the permits. They don't want to pay the fines because the fines are now hefty, and that's part of our enforcement policy. So this really works. When you come to the estate lots, we're still having some head-bashing, teeth-gnashing conversations about those, because I still think that on the estate lots, if someone comes into us and wants to get a short-term vacation rental permit for that estate lot, they ought to tell us immediately at the time that they're submitting that application whether they're going to rent it out or not. Because you have to have a public hearing to get that permit. And that's the time when our residents should be able to make a comment to us, and we should be able to judge whether that house or estate, because they're all good sized lots, should have a permit at all, one, and if so, then
Fast, I know.
You finish your sentence.
this is one of those things that I'm passionate about, sorry.
STVRs. Maybe it's the mediator in me, but my stand was actually kind of in between the measure and not the measure. I'll explain. I believe that if somebody wants to rent out a room during Coachella, they shouldn't even need a permit. They should be able to just do it. It doesn't hurt anybody. The resident is the policeman and best to keep in control. No problem. A lot of people, though, they need that extra income for during the special events, be it tennis or Coachella, Stagecoach. And that couple of weeks here and there really help them out. And I don't think that's too much of a strain for us to put up with. I have had seven on my street, on my block. 7 STVRs. Now there's 5. But we live with it because they haven't abused it. So that's okay. It's when it becomes a full-time hotel, motel, whatever you want to call it, where you have people in and out, a couple of different people every week. Some people care and some people don't. That's where it becomes a problem. And that's where I would stand as far as having regulations. Have limits to how many weeks or whatever you can put in. We can mediate that to figure out a happy medium. I think that can be done. But right now, the law is the law, and I stand by the law. As far as the commercial events in residential neighborhoods, I totally think that's wrong. Who wants to live next to a house that has weddings every weekend with 300 people? You don't want to do that. Do you think your property value is going to go up or down if that's happening? So I think we've had 2 properties over the last few years, and we've had complaints against both of them. I heard at the last city council meeting there was another one popping up. Maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't, I don't know. But there's a potential of 70, last count that I heard, and that's too much.
I'll plug for you, Joe.
Thank you.
Well, let's call the rental program what it is, of course. And I would say that half of the owners of the properties wouldn't be able to own their properties if they weren't allowed to rent them out at certain times of the year. I'm president of my HOA for the first 5 years. I can't believe what my next door neighbor gets for a month, you know, and $15,000, $25,000 a month, and he wants to rent it out for twice, and it pays for his mortgage for the whole year. So I can understand why it should be done, but I put in our CCRs and so forth, certain restrictions. You can't rent it out overnight or a weekend, it has to be a 30-day rental, things like that. Now, with the other homes that are not in gated communities, it's a lot to maintain what goes on with them, because code compliance, usually people go out for a night of dancing and drinking, or Coachella Fest, they come home at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, they want to go out to the pool, turn on the music, and that's the beginning of it. I personally think that STVRs are fine until one moves next door to you. Then it's a whole different story. So we don't have 24-hour code compliance that can drop up in a second and drive over someplace. You can call the non-emergency police number. So that's the part, that's the problem. If everybody was nice and peaceful, it would be fine, but it doesn't happen that way. So unless it can be maintained and so forth by regulations, I'm probably against it. But it does help the economy, it does help bring people here. And if it can be worked out, then I'd be in favor of that too. I think you might agree with me. Thank you very much.
We are accepting donations from our microphones. Our next topic, we are going to talk, and some of this came up in the opening comments. We're going to talk about basic infrastructure, roads, bridges, that sort of thing. This is one of the primary and basic responsibilities of local government, right? I've got different parts to this question. So we're going to talk about flood control, CV Link, and any other planned or potentially needed improvements. First, a year ago we experienced an epic event with Tropical Storm Hillary. The new bridge over the wash on Dune Palms is really a great project. What else is being done or can be done for flood control? Next, CV Link. This is also a great project with many benefits. As I understand it, it's currently entering segment 7 now, which includes La Quinta. Now, I looked at the maps and the legends, and honestly, it's a little confusing. So please give us an update on this and any potential impacts to residents and traffic flows. And finally, please touch on any other upcoming or proposed road improvements. And this round, we start with Mr. Sanchez.
All right, that's a lot for 2 minutes. So I'm going to try to speak fast, but cover everything that I can. So Dune Palm is very important. Well, let me backtrack. Flood control. Even prior to the last storm we had last year, what was it, back in 2014, 15, I remember the city was underwater. We all became scuba divers that day. And after that, shortly after that, myself and Kathleen came on board on the city council, and the task of the council at that time, all of us, was to improve our roads or our flood controls, ensure that our cities wouldn't be stranded again. We spent millions of dollars improving our infrastructure. Fast forward to last year, you saw that throughout the city, we weren't really flooded anywhere. We had pockets of standing water here and there, but we weren't trapped in our homes like we were back in 2014. And that's a credit to our staff and our council for allocating our reserve funds, our budget for our infrastructure for flood control. Dune Palms, continue with the flood control. Dune Palms is on progress. It's on schedule. If you're driving by Highway 11 Dune Palms, now you have access, at least temporarily, while it's still under construction. But that's an important part to connect the school, the communities in that area to Highway 111 and the rest of La Quinta. We accelerated that project a little bit, and we were able to reduce the timeline on that, so that's going to be very important. Highway 111, as far as infrastructure, we're scheduled for summer of next year. We were running out of time here, so I think somebody's going to touch on it, but we were waiting the $4 million grant from the feds to add to that $8+ million project. So that's what we're waiting on.
So I'm just going to touch back on the flood control. Steve's right. We did an engineering study on stormwater movement right after the 2015-2017 storms and the major damage that we had. We've done about $15 million in improvements already, which are working, and we have about $8 million more which are scheduled. So those are all good things that are happening, and they're part of the things that keep our city safe as well as beautiful. CV Link. CV Link is substantially complete in December of 2024. In June of 2025, it will be totally complete. There are some random segments out in Coachella that need to be done that have some land issues with CBWD, so those will get done. And then that whole project will be done. $90 million worth of work across the valley. That's pretty gosh darn good when we didn't pay for it. So it was all grant money. We have the arts and music line coming in at $38 million.
The grant was, the ATP grant was 36, it's like in the 50s or something.
Yeah, so, okay, so the arts and music line will run down 48th Street. It will come and connect with CV Link. It will come down and help us get some other connections into La Quinta and down into where the polo grounds are. It's really meant to take care of active transportation, bicycles, neighborhood electric vehicles, electric bicycles, pedestrians, things like that. Those are the kinds of things that get funded by the federal government now, and those are the kinds of things that we take and we manage our money by taking our money and matching it with their money so that we get big projects done quickly. There's a lot more coming, but anyway, I'm going to pass it down to Joe. I'm done.
You might find it hard to believe, but I don't think that everything that this current city council does is wrong. I think they actually have done a decent job with the flood control since we had that last disaster, and things are in the pipeline to get fixed, and I commend them for that. That's the right thing to do. The two most important things the city does, in my opinion, is public safety and the roads. So we'll go right to the roads. Our roads are terrible. We budget, last I heard, about $2 million a year for general pavement repair. It's not enough. The thing with Highway 111, we couldn't do it because we're waiting for the Fed money, and that was going to come in the summer of this year, and something happened. All of a sudden, we had a meeting about what's coming up, and we find out it's going to be next year. So we don't even know what happened and why. But eventually, it'll get fixed. So we hope that. The bridge with Dune Palm, they built the bridge over the River Quay faster than that. There's going to be another one though on 50th, right off of Washington, and that one we hope that takes a few less years to get that one built. This thing on 48 is one of the few streets that actually halfway decent pavements, so of course we're going to change that. Don't want to leave it the way it is. And it's going to become a real problem if it starts actually at Washington, to back up from the Adams Street left-hand turn, which backs up now down almost to Washington on certain times of the day. It's going to be a real disaster when you have one lane and no way to get around that turn lane as it backs up. So that's going to be a real problem. And that's it.
All right, let's talk about the CV link. It went to a vote in Rancho Mirage and Indian Wells, and I voted it down 81 to 19. I would have liked it to go to a vote for us too. I personally was in charge of putting the bicycle path from Venice through Marina Del Rey to Playa del Rey. Of course, on one side, you have the beach and the ocean, so that's very easy. And on the other side, we had the marina going all the way around and so forth. We didn't have to worry about strangers coming through our neighborhoods, 1% of them casing out the houses and things like that. That's what I was concerned about. I asked a lot of questions several years ago before I would even consider voting in favor of it. Number one was, who's going to clean it? It was never, are we going to clean it? Is the county going to clean it? Is there going to be a special CV link? The security, nighttime, cameras, lights, first aid. You're going to allow golf carts on it, but a golf cart can only go 6-7 miles, like through a golf course. It has to be recharged. Where's it going to recharge? It's going to be stuck out there. There's so many answers to the CV link. Now I know that our council and Tom Kirk, who used to be our council, but in fact Mrs. Evans took his place on the council, and she's on the board of CV link, are in favor of pushing it through, and I feel that it is going to go through, but those questions are still not answered. Don't you want to know what they are? I would certainly like to know. Thank you.
Get your steps in.
I am.
We should move in the middle.
Maybe.
Okay, so the question was infrastructure. We do a capital improvement plan, it's a 5-year plan every year, and we fund the first year to the tune of several $1 million, and then plan what project's going to happen after that. So flood control, as was mentioned, we did a drainage study post. It was actually up to 12 and 14 bad storms that we had, and we're able to invest multiple millions of dollars, as Kathleen had said, with another 8 million or so to go. So those are small pockets to make sure we have emergency vehicle access up and down Washington, few areas like Eisenhower and 50th. So that's something that we looked beyond when that flood happened, saying we have to start piecing that together now. And years later, when Hillary comes, we virtually had next to no problems compared to a lot of other cities, and gratefully because of those investments. CV Link, of course, is near completion, and that was fully funded through grants, as Kathleen had indicated. Coachella Valley Association of Governments would be responsible for maintaining it. That didn't come out of our pocket, it doesn't come out of our sales tax, it doesn't come out of our property tax. And that'll be an access point that doesn't impact our residents because it's from Washington to Jefferson. It's a 2-mile stretch on the south side of the levee of the Wash, right along our commercial corridor, which ties into the commercial corridor Highway 111 plan, which combines not only the repavement of Highway 111, it revitalizes that retailtainment section so that people have staying power and not just show up, shop, and leave. You have CV Link as a connector to help offload the traffic, and Arts and Music Line on 48th is also an offload. So the Highway 111 corridor plan is a combination of not only standardization of signage, standardization of some zoning, pulling 11 or 12 specific plans for each of those center owners together to work collaboratively so that we can yield something. So on CV Link, we're looking at signage that you can attract people from CV Link to come and shop in the stores and have lunch and have resting spots. Last thing I will say is Highway 111 is going to be repaved again like this summer. We were waiting for federal funds. You can't spend the money until you get their money. And I'm going to hear the buzzer. God, I got so much more to talk about. Infrastructure's huge.
I know.
It's huge. Okay.
All right. Next topic, and we're going to begin with Kathleen. I will deliver the microphone. So after several years of delays and mounting frustrations, residents are still waiting for answers on the completion of Talus, formerly known as Silver Rock. This project was touted to be the Valley's first 5-star development and originally scheduled to open in 2019. Please give a current update and tell us the real effects so far, both fiscally and environmentally, and how can the city help bring this to a viable and successful conclusion?
Good question.
Completely unexpected.
Yeah.
You knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And probably worthy of almost an hour.
Go.
As opposed to 2 minutes. The developer's in bankruptcy. We are helping get that bankruptcy moving as quickly as possible. And we anticipate that in the near future, you'll be at least seeing it cleaned up so that the 130 acres that the developer currently has under contract can be moved into another developer's hands, and we can develop this project again as a whole, as anticipated, because it is going to be one of our major economic drivers. We anticipate the bankruptcy so far is going fairly smoothly for us because we are trying to manage it, and as part of managing it, we are lending up to $2 million to assure that the project gets buttoned up, so to speak, the site cleaned up, the existing construction cleaned up so that it can be remarketed as part of the bankruptcy case. Hopefully that all comes together and we're back under construction sometime in a year. But you know, these big projects never seem to ever get done by the first person who comes in. To his credit, Mr. Green had a wonderful idea. To our credit, we went and worked with him as long as we possibly could with the development agreement that we inherited. About this thick, big contract, lots of clauses. You have to adhere to the contract when you are in a contract with someone. So that's how we got where we are. We had to give him the time he needed. And it was too short a time.
Green was the wrong contractor. He was the wrong guy to develop this property. We knew that years and years ago. He defaulted. We gave him chance after chance after chance. Didn't work out. finally he declares bankruptcy. We'll know on October 15th a better idea of where that's going, because the trustee put in a motion to throw out this Chapter 11. And if that happens, well, then it's up to Green to either file a 7, which is possible, for liquidation, or the foreclosures are going to happen. And if that happens, then we're really in the right, because we don't know who will buy it in the foreclosure auction. The bank might buy it out of the trustee to themselves and still have a chance to sell the whole place intact, but maybe not. We don't know that yet. So we're going to have to see what happens on October 15th before we know how big a problem we have. I'm hoping that a deal can be done, and I think it will be done, for the whole property to go to one of the developers that the city's already been talking to, because I think he's viable and it could work out. But I don't have all the inside information. I only know what I get from the trustee's office, the bankruptcy records, things like that. But it's going to come to a head very shortly. It'll be over with, and we'll know what's going on very soon. This can be fixed. The whole thing can be fixed. It might not turn out to be the vision exactly the way it was planned, because of so much money they'll have to go to pay off old creditors and then still have money to build. But something really nice can still happen, and I look forward to it, because I think the general idea was a good one, and I'm for it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm really mad about what's going on, and council knows about it, because we made a bid for the property 10 years ago. We proved that we had the money from our bank, $450 million. We had the developers. We met with people on city council. They spoke with those people for 2 hours. Our developers came down here and walked the property for 3 days and 2 nights. We had our own plan on what to put there, and we were not selected. And Robert Green was selected. I told him that he was broke. I stood at city council and I pointed at him on the front row. And I said, until you can have proof of funds that you can finish this, not only have money to begin with, but he was very good. We called it smoke and mirrors. He's a very good magician. I told him he should take his act to Caesar's Palace. We'd make more money selling tickets there. I still carry this around after all this time, because it never had to happen if they would have had proof of funds at the time, and the city manager didn't follow through with that. And you can tell that I'm still steaming, if you can see it coming out of the top of my head. This whole project from the beginning, Green defaulted many times. He was given extensions. The council rolled over backwards. I met with him last year for 2.5 hours with Richard Gray at the Vintage Coffee Shop. We gave him an opening to speak to our group, the Concerned Citizens of La Quinta, last November at our meeting. John McMillan, the city manager, came, and he spoke also. We were very hopeful that what he was telling us was true, but it was a lie. And now he used our land as collateral to raise money, and we can't find it. Mrs. Evans says that it's accounted for, but the Bachelor Record hasn't received those documents. I could continue to talk about this afterwards if you like. Thank you.
There's a lot of good questions, a lot of good issues here. I promise you all have to come back around where you're going to have a chance to fill in whatever you didn't get to say.
I didn't get to say anything yet. The time is now. No, thank you, Virginia. Let me just continue on. First of all, the alleged $450 million that's still proposed. The entity says that you have to put up collateral. I said, what kind of collateral? Oh, the entire city. How do you put city up as collateral for a loan? So, end of story, be steamed. The reality is we had a development agreement that we worked through the contractual process. There were times after default and cure that we thought, let's just work towards termination, and we recognized that process might be longer than it would take to get the financing that he needed and continue on. We're at that point now. Joe did a nice recap on where we are from the bankruptcy standpoint, but there are developers in the wings as this continues to move forward. Montage and Pendry are committed to this project, this land, that location. The entire hospitality area here, the Visitors Bureau and the hoteliers are extremely excited about adding a Montage to this destination of our greater Palm Springs area. And the contractors like R.D. Olson and Granite are wanting to see this project through. So we've got a lot of collaboration, not including our developer that is going to be moving on. But this is a piece of land that was 525 acres, and as Kathleen said, it's about 130 that are being tied up right now. Part of our upfront $2 million that we'll get back is to secure the site. The infrastructure is there, but obviously there's been wear and tear, so a lot of that will have to come down. But we want to make sure that the site's secured and what's there is protected while we're going through this process and identifying a new person to help see it through. So it was envisioned back in 2002, long before all of us were on council, as a piece of property that will generate economic development from hotel tax, property tax, and sales tax as a future stability factor for the city of La Quinta fiscally. We are extremely strong fiscally now. That was another trajectory for long-term planning. And as Kathleen said, we will see this through. It's not the first hotel in this valley that's taken longer than we had planned, but if this is one of the few things to complain about, I'm going to see this through and make sure that I'm there for the ribbon cutting.
I think you didn't talk about calendar. Yeah, Kathleen started.
To continue with the mayor and Councilman Fitzpatrick were saying, we did have a contract, and in that contract, there are timelines, and there are, if you don't make a timeline, there are right to cure periods that we have to afford everyone, just like any other contract or any other real estate deal that we have. The city has done a great job of protecting the city's interest the entire time, the entire process of bankruptcy or anything leading up to it. We've always had the city's interest in mind. We're residents of the city, we live here. Besides that, we have our reputations, we have our words, who we are as council members and mayors. We don't want this, project just to, we don't want to lose the city's interest in all of this, right? We have the city's best interest in mind. That's always at the forefront of not just Silver Rock, but anything that we do here in the city. The city's always our priority. And so I'm trying to read my notes. I left my glasses in the car, and let's see. Oh, and the city, as the mayor said, Montage and Pendry, it was last week or so, have reiterated that they are standing behind us in building this development. They are still with us. And anyone who's ever been to a Montage and Pendry, you know what quality of work that hotel, that resort is. And it's going to be an amazing addition to our city for tourism and for revenue to our city, because we do rely on TLT, but also the sales tax that will come from it. So it's something that I'm looking forward to still being a part of. We're going to get this thing completed. And as a real estate agent, I don't know any development that's ever gone smoothly right off the bat. They all have their hiccups, and this is a massive project.
Thank you. So for our next topic, we're going to talk about a little bit deeper into economic development in general. There's different parts to this question, and as I awkwardly tried to say, you're going to have the opportunity to bring all this stuff back around if you have more things to say about topics. The entire valley continues to grow, and La Quinta is very desirable with a wonderful quality of life and world-class events either in or adjacent to the city. With commercial and residential growth expected to continue, what are some obstacles that do happen or may happen? In particular, does Imperial Irrigation District have the capacity to serve this growth? If not, what costs may be involved for developers, businesses, or taxpayers? Also, what about bandwidth? While this is not a direct responsibility of the city, with growth also comes more demand for internet connectivity and cell phone towers. Are there discussions with service providers, and are there any plans for improvement in the near future? And this one we start with Joe.
In 2 minutes.
Thank you. We'll start with bandwidth, since it's the last thing that we mentioned. You know, these companies that provide all this internet stuff, they pay the city. Well, actually, you pay it on your bill, and it goes to the city for using the right-of-way. And so they are beholden to us as a city on what to do. So we have to make a determination of what we want from them, what we're willing to contribute to expand the internet to everybody. And not just internet, but working internet that doesn't go down every other week. And you actually can use it to watch programs and be on your phone at the same time. That's an investment of the city and a collaboration with all these different companies. And it gets harder the more companies you got out there doing this stuff. But it can be done. We did it in Los Angeles when I was at Consumer Affairs. We had actually our own department that handled dealing with the internet, Wi-Fi, cable people, had their own section. City of Los Angeles has their own section, but they don't do anything, they just let it go. But you can do a lot. As far as economic development of the city, we're doing a pretty good job of things. You know, companies come and go. Things get hot and then they die. Some companies will never come back that you want back because they tried it 20 years ago and they had a place nearby and now they're afraid to come back. But that can all be done again. I talk to people like at Topgolf about bringing in, and they're working on a smaller version of this because we don't have the population in the Coachella Valley that satisfies their model. But they are working on a smaller model, so something like that could come in, which would be a great enhancement to, and fit right in with being the golf capital of America. So that's something that, you know, you just gotta try things. You gotta look at the different things that haven't been done, and not just the same old stuff.
That's time.
Okay. On economic development and future growth, I think we're doing a lousy job. I think our council are all great people. I know them personally for a long time, but I think on this subject, they're more like a firing squad in a circle, and we're way behind times. And we are behind times. We're 5 years behind the curve, and we should be 5 years ahead of the curve. They've heard me speak about this before. I think we need a huge program to attract new businesses here, to fill all those empty stores, make it very attractive for them, give them tax incentives, and if they take advantage of our tax incentives, they have to have at least 50% of La Quinta employees that live here, that will spend their money here and not take it out, because right now it's probably 80% of the workers here in La Quinta that don't live here. We have to look forward to expansion, which we have to annex Vista Santa Rosa. That's a must. We should have done looking into that 10 years ago. We could have bought that land for pennies on the dollar, and it butts up against the Jacqueline Cochran Airport, which I've chaired a committee years ago to expand that from a regional to a national airport. How long does it take you to go from here to Palm Springs Airport and by cab over $100? And that regional airport could be hitting all the towns from Phoenix, San Diego, San Francisco, Las Vegas, everything else. And I think we have to get on that. In fact, the county, I met with Tom Freeman at the time, and he said, Robert, if you can get your own city of La Quinta to back you, and that was the previous council before Linda Evans, and they wouldn't even do it. So it's still sitting there. So there's a lot that we can do that we're not doing. I guess we're bogged down with a lot of other things, and hopefully we can get moving on that. Thank you. Time goes too quickly.
It's a loaded question.
Thank you very much. Okay, the question was about economic development and the obstacles given the growth, our events, and commercial and residential growth. Obstacle of ID is an absolute obstacle. We are at capacity in our substations and our power that's being generated from Imperial County up here to our Coachella Valley, Indio, Coachella, La Quinta, and the unincorporated areas of Riverside County that are served by IID. For 60% of their customer base and 60% of their revenue, we have zero say in anything that elected board from Imperial County does. They have not planned for infrastructure, they have not planned for growth and development of new substations. From a development standpoint, our city manager has collaborated with about a dozen developers because IID has told them, we can't give you power unless we build a new substation. The substations have gone from 25 million to 35 million in the last 6 months, and they take 3 years once you actually order one to even get here. So think about what that looks like from any development that you might hear that's coming. So it is a huge obstacle, and the cost will be borne on the developers because that's their job. IID needs to raise rates a little bit. If they were raising rates a little bit at a time, not SCE, they'd have money to be able to plan for the future, but they are, penny wise and pound foolish. From a bandwidth standpoint, when we have done our camera system and our CD sync, the signal synchronization with CMAG, we've arranged to have fiber optic room for that to add broadband and collaborate with those utility companies on that. And then from a growth perspective and economic development, we're diversifying. We have to look beyond visitors and hospitality and tourism. And the Visit Greater Palm Springs has developed an economic development committee that we serve on so they can do market attraction. So we can look at things and put things in place, including power, that will allow diversification of revenue for things other than hospitality and tourism. And the whole Highway 111 corridor plan, again, that's 75% of our sales tax in that 2-mile stretch. So we have to look at maintaining that infrastructure and attraction in order to have the sales tax. Sales tax is up, property tax is up, and our hotel tax is up. So fiscally, we're doing a good job in City of La Quinta. Thank you.
What she said, continuation of IID. The reason why it's been such a huge issue, and this is something that I think all of you, everybody watching, should really pay attention to. Yeah, you go home, you turn your lights on, you put the switch, the light goes on. But that's slowly going away, mainly because of the lack of investment in infrastructure over the decades from IID. IID, so you know, and this is an important history about them, is they are a government agency out of Imperial County, where 60-65% of its residents, or of its customers and revenue on the electric side comes from the eastern Coachella Valley. Now, I don't know about you, but 60-65% and not having a say with voting representation is a problem for me. Because of that lack of representation, we're at where we are now, right? No one's had the foresight to say, hey, let's look at the Coachella Valley, let's start investing in infrastructure, let's start planning for the growth out there. And because of that, now we're having problems where developers can't get a will serve letter. The developers are bypassing areas, not just in La Quinta, but in the eastern Coachella Valley, which, quite frankly, needs the economic development the most because they need the jobs out there, and that's where the growth is. That area can't grow because you can't, as a property owner, reliably know that you'll be able to develop your land in a reasonable amount of time to make a financial sense to do so because you can't get power. Water we have, power we don't, and that's a huge burden on our growth. So any growth we want to see, not even future growth, infill. We have projects in the Old Town area, the village, that are struggling to get power, vacant lands next to surrounding homes and businesses because IID, their infrastructure just wasn't equipped and designed for that. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1.
Okay, I'm going to leave IID because I think we spend a lot of time talking about IID. I will talk a little bit about what Linda said about bandwidth. One of the things, I sit on the RCTC Commission, the Riverside County Transportation Commission, and one of the mandates that they are, since they control most of our Measure A money, which is the gas tax money that you pay as part of your sales tax, and the SB1 money, they are starting to condition projects that to include the ability to have in the ground as part of every project conduits to allow for bandwidth expansion. So everybody understands that this is a thing that we need to do so that we can continue to grow. Well, I agree, we need to seriously look at the annexation of Vista Santa Rosa and that area to the east of us. We don't buy that property when we annex it. It's annexed at the will of the people who live there and own that property. We have to, there's a whole process, and Steve sits on the LAFCO committee that manages that process. People have to be surveyed, they have to come in and they have to vote to actually be annexed. There has to be a plan in place to be able to afford to provide services for any annexation of any property. And while I agree that it would be nice for us to have Jackie Cochran as a national airport or an international airport, that is even outside our sphere of influence. So we need to, you know, it's a great idea, and it's one of those things that we need to look at as we continue to grow. But it's a long-term process, and it's a participatory process. Developers come to the city and ask to be annexed. We don't go to the developers generally and say, well, a condition of your project is that you have to annex to the city. And we've increased the number of business permits.
Economic development, that's right.
Economic development, got it in there.
Oh, we've got one more round of topics before we go into our closing statements, and I'm going to do it from here because we start with Robert. So I didn't promise you a softball game, but I did promise you have the opportunity to come back around on some of these topics. So we're going to do just a basic topic here regarding the city budget. Tell us about the La Quinta city budget and explain some strengths and weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges.
My best topic. Well, I'm not involved, in behind the doors of City Hall, so I don't know what is discussed for a city budget or not a city budget, but of course we have to operate within the budget that has been selected, just like you do at home. You have, what you can spend, what you can't spend, and you can't overspend, or you're going to be in trouble. I'm a businessman, and I've had lots of experience, and I feel that you create the budget. We have an excess of funds now. We have to be careful how to spend them for a rainy day. That's one of the reasons why Highway 111 isn't being finished, And I've always said that when I drive down Highway 111, it's the only city in the country where if you want to change lanes, you just take your hands off the steering wheel and the car moves over automatically. And I think that maybe we could fix some of those spots in the meantime. But the budget, I think, is best if it's answered by the city councilmen that are here. So that's about what I can say. Thank you. Should I pass it to Joseph?
No, it's me, right?
Linda is perfect for that answer.
I hope I get this one right because our finance manager is sitting here listening. Thanks for being here, Rosemary. City budget is a transparent process. Number one, anybody can look on the website right now and find our financial reports, our audits, all of our financial advisory commission meetings, every time we approve demand registers, warrants, etc. That is for the public because that's part of our public process. Our city budget is $83 million this year in revenues and expenses. And when I got on council, it was about $40 million. So when you look at the opportunity for growth and advancement, we've done a pretty darn good job. We've got a financial advisory commission that is comprised of volunteers that serve, and they are kind of like, they work with our finance team and staff and council, almost like the colonoscopy of revenues and expenses. And they come up with great ideas, whether we need to change banks, whether we look at reduced fees, and our finance team has won awards for the last, 20-some years on financial excellence, so I'm very proud of that. Strengths are the reserves. I mentioned earlier we're fully funded in reserves, and we're near fully funded on pension because that's a moving target. Our opportunities are always looking at the investments, and that's the specialty of Ms. Rosemary in the back there. Always looking at grant opportunities, whether they're matching or fully funded, and then looking at how do we leverage what we have from a land standpoint to attract developers for affordable housing. Some of the weaknesses, quite honestly, we miss out on some opportunities for grant funds because while we have a diverse population, we're not poor enough to get free money. And that hurts us, even though we pride ourselves on being the city that has the largest number of affordable housing units in the entire Coachella Valley. But the challenges are making sure that we are super conservative fiscally, because we are, and that has bode well. The stability of not only some outstanding staff and council over the years, with our policies in place that kind of require a certain amount saved, a certain amount for this, $2 million for payment management, different things that we have set in place that has fared well, especially like the flood control measures, is looking at how we piece along and spend money eventually to get a plan in place. So challenges is avoiding another pandemic.
Right. And not having control. Okay.
What she said, and
He loves that.
I love
Yeah.
following the mayor. She just makes my job easier. Obviously, if you look around, the city of La Quinta is a beautiful city, and that costs money, right? You look at our landscaping, you look at just the beautiful environment that you live in, and if you're a visitor, you're visiting here for a reason. It costs money to do that, and budgeting properly, as I wrote my notes, and the mayor said the same. Our budget process, it's open to the public. We have residents that come and comment on it. It's online. We have quarterly reviews. Monthly, we're paying our bills. You'll see it on the consent calendar. You can see where the money's coming in and where the money's coming out all the time. We're not hiding anything. It's illegal for us to do any backdoor deals on city financing. First of all, even if I wanted to go spend the money somewhere else without the council permission, finance wouldn't allow it, right? There's checks and balances. It's either we watch too many movies or too many TV shows. It doesn't work like that in real life. There are a lot of checks and balances, and our team can't just cut me a check because Steve Sanchez, the councilman, says, cut me a check so I can spend it. Everything is transparent as it should be, whether it's financing, whether it's an ordinance, whether it's some type of developer agreement. Everything we do in City Hall is transparent. I would never risk my life in jail time to do anything illegal for some type of backdoor deal. So any notion of any council member or mayor, nor would I allow the mayor or any other council member to do the same. I think you can rely on your city council to be fiscally responsible with your money, because this is your money.
And we treat it like it's your
Yeah.
money. Just to add a little bit onto the process, we start our budget every year in January or February with our community workshop, where we actually come out to the community and meet with you and ask you what you want to see us do for the next year, and then the next 5 years. And those things go on a list, and they become part of our CIP program, which becomes part of our budget. Our strengths are, as Linda and Steve both said, we have healthy reserves. We have a healthy CIP capital improvement program that projects out for the next 5 years how we're going to spend money. We're working on coming together with what we call an asset management plan. That's where we actually survey all of our assets, our real property, and our buildings, and our parks, and our, God forbid, lake pumps. And look at what the longevity of each one of those pieces is, and then we try and figure out how that goes into part of the capital improvement program, so that we manage our assets so that the quality of life that you enjoy now will be the same in 5 years or better. I'd like to say one of the other things that we are very good at is leveraging our funds, our grant funds, and in conjunction with our funds. That is like one of the examples of why Highway 111 will not get paved until next year. If we can't take advantage of having that $4 million by actually using it when it gets here, if we were foolish enough to put a project out to bid for $8 million now, knowing that if we waited 6 months and had $4 million coming from the federal government, and we would only have to pay $4 million from our general fund, I think you would all fire us. I mean, because that's just not good fiscal management. That doesn't make any sense to anybody. So that's why we're waiting, and that's how we leverage funds to our advantage, to your advantage.
The city of La Quinta is known to keep very nice books. I don't think there's anybody who can doubt that. But as far as budgeting, we also have to think of the things that aren't the regular type of items. It's not just all flood control, and it's not the roads, and it's not the police, and things like that all the time. I mean, those are regular things. But there's a potential that we may have to have our own animal control very soon. The Board of Supervisors of Riverside County have already said, well, get your own, because the current CVAC that we contract with is full, and they're killing dogs and cats like crazy. It's 20 years old, it's outgrown itself, and they don't want to put any more money into it. And cities that contract are going to have to consider making their own. That's going to be a big expense, and something we should at least think about, that if that happens, we're ready for it. A lot of the cities actually just got billed by the county for the services. We didn't. It probably means they've been overcharging us. But these are the type of things that you have to think of, the what ifs and the maybes, so it can continue to be a strong, as far as fiscally solvent city.
All right, well, that's it for the planned topics. I know we threw a lot at you, and the good news is we're going to proceed into our closing statements, so you can fill in anything you didn't get to talk about, answer any other questions maybe you want us to hear about. And we did another draw on who got to go first on the final round of the closing statements, and that starts with Linda.
Oh, great.
2.5 minutes, you get
2.5, I got all the time in the world. Just kidding. Again, thank you very much for taking an interest in learning more about your city, learning more about the candidates. We have a very cohesive council, as we mentioned on some of the comments. We don't agree on everything, but when we make a decision, it's on behalf of 41,000 residents here, and then we stand by that and we see that through. We're not a perfect city, but compared to a lot of other cities in the state in this valley, we run a pretty tight ship, and people are pretty darn happy that live here, and we recognize that we're here for the community. We're not here for ourselves, with the exception of Kathleen. We all work. My typical day starts about 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning. That's when I wake up. I hike for 2.5 miles at 5. I'm actually the volunteer who unlocks the gates in the bathroom at the top of the cove, because I need to get my hike in before I go to work, my full-time job. We do emails, a little laundry, some housework, and then going to the work, and then we're serving on various committees in between. We've got council binders and agendas to read. We've got emails to respond to, or answering questions, making phone calls, and then doing council meetings, and then interacting with the commissioners. We have a great group of commissioners that serve our various parts of our city. We have an amazing staff. And again, we've got sacred values. We've got sacred values of public safety, because if you don't have a safe city, then the property values go down. People don't feel like they can recreate, because health and wellness is also important. And we pride ourselves in making sure that we're abiding by the law from a standpoint of enforcement. We don't want people to feel like they can take advantage of our businesses. It's a top priority, and it's rampant. So that's a vote yes on 36, by the way, to give our police officers a little tools and resources to get the bad guys and keep them out of here. Our camera systems have helped on that as well. Public safety, economic growth, health and wellness, environmental stewardship, as well as cultural preservation. These are things that we pride ourselves on. We're tackling things like the Highway 111 corridor, just from the whole kind of repurposing that in addition to the pavement. We're tackling the IID, of course we're tackling Talus, as you know. These are some big projects that require some in-depth knowledge and continuation and focus to get things done. And again, I'm proud to serve as your mayor, and I would like to continue to see these through. And I ask for your vote on early voting and or on November 5th, depending on what your preference is. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to be able to have you here and ask questions and hear right from all of our mouths what our opinions are and our thoughts are on the relevant topics, whether it was your question that you asked or just something you were curious about. As the mayor said, we sit on many different commissions and committees as council members. We don't just meet every 2 weeks on Tuesday to vote on something. I know myself, I usually clock it. It's about 30 to 40 hours a week or so in some type of government capacity, whether it's City Hall, SCAG, we have all these acronyms in government, right, for different agencies. But we all sit in about 4 or 5, 6 different commissions and agencies that help run the Coachella Valley. And being a council member, you have to be able to interact with your fellow colleagues, your residents, but you also have to be able to interact with council members, the board of supervisors, water districts, school board, parks and rec, desert healthcare district, so many different agencies that you have to collaborate with on topics and issues that are affecting the region and your city. Yeah, we have 9 cities, but we operate regionally on a lot of issues. Transportation, homelessness, public safety committees. So it's not just La Quinta City Council. We have a lot of regional issues and quite frankly, regional economic issues. Our growth helps other cities grow. Other cities' growth help our cities grow. Businesses that come to another city, while we would want it here, we still have employees or residents that become employees of those businesses. And so, it's a friendly competition between the other cities, but really the success of the Coachella Valley is when every single city grows and prospers together. And I think that was one of the main catalysts for things like CVAG originally, back in the 70s, right? When that first came about, the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, the cities got together and said, hey, let's start tackling this issue, and it started growing from there. I've got 15 seconds left, and with that, I really want to thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be a councilman, and I hope and I ask for your vote for 4 more years. I think the city's doing well, and if you'd like the city to continue the growth that it is, please re-elect myself, the mayor, and the council. Thank you.
I just want to thank the church, thank Father James, thank our volunteers for coming out. This is a service to the community. This is a service to our residents. We're accessible to all of you pretty much 24/7. Our emails are on the website. We get emails, we get text messages, we get phone calls all the time, and that's part of our service. We like being here and we like hearing from our residents. So never feel like you can't talk to us. You can. We're extremely accessible. But I really want to say that there's still work to be done. We all have lots of priorities that we want to see happen in the city of La Quinta. I think overall what we're telling you is we understand that we know what your residents want, a quality of life that you live here for, and we want to continue to do that. We want to continue to work on Silver Rock or Talus, whatever you want to call it. I've stopped calling it Talus. I'm back to Silver Rock. So we know that needs to get done, and we're all committed to working as hard as we possibly can to make sure that it gets done as quickly as possible. Highway 111, we have a vision that goes beyond paving it. We have a vision that takes us into an economic future that rivals just about any place you've probably seen. I think if you go into some of these other cities like Alameda or Pasadena or Orange, where you see the revitalization that's taking place in their town, along their town main drags, you'll see the kind of thing we want. We want something that's people friendly. We want something that it increases our housing and increases our value to our community. So we want to do that. And we want to continue to improve our police and fire enforcement in the city. There are always new innovations that are coming. There are always new things. Our camera system that former Councilman Dr. Ratty was so instrumental in helping us get started. It has been a boom across the valley. Other cities are now doing it. It's being copied because it works. It helps us catch criminals. It helps us track those Amber Alerts and things like that. So there's still a lot of work to be done. I have a lot of energy. I've been retired a long time, but I still have a lot of energy. And I'm better off doing this than being at home causing trouble. So.
Thank you for being here to listen to me and to hear about some of my ideas. You might also look on Nextdoor. I write a lot of stuff about what's going on there, or on Facebook at La Quinta Politics, that group. Go to my website, Joe Johnson for laquinta.com. Doesn't matter if you put a number 4 or FOR. I have both domains. We have a choice of having new ideas coming onto council for the first time in a while. If I was going to build a park, there's nobody I'd want better than Kathleen. If I wanted to know how to be the best dressed guy, there's nobody better than Steve. But when it comes to new things coming up, the unknowns, the things that you have to figure out, I don't think that any of them can come close to what I can come up with. I have ideas and I react to challenges where I come up with solutions, because that's what I do, that's what I've been doing for my entire life. I've helped thousands of people in consumer affairs, getting money back from even organized criminals, from bad businesses. I have a lot of ideas of things that this city can do that's not very expensive, that can help the quality of life. And I'd like the opportunity to be able to present those things and to tell people about it and to actually make it happen. There's a lot of things that can be done, and I'd like the opportunity to do it, and I hope that you agree to give me a shot. Thank you very much.
I made a few notes while I was sitting here. I'd like to just read them off very quickly first. I feel that we lack a coherent framework to attract investment, and that's why we need some new leadership in the city. Our leaders need to attract attention, maintain interest, create desire, and get action. Silver Rock Resort was supposed to be the key asset of La Quinta, but unfortunately, with what's going on, that opportunity is not here, but maybe it will return. We all need to insist upon a basic standard of truth from our elected officials and community leaders, and we must cultivate a commitment to truth to show our young people and children that it has to start here with us. I guess I want to say that a vote for me is a vote for progress for us and our children, and for those others. Join with me. Thank you for your vote. You know, a council member, to me, can affect eternity in some of our lives. They can never tell where their influence stops. And I feel that we can't afford to wait. Our future can't afford to wait for the future, if that makes sense. And I thank you very much for inviting me here, and have a good evening and be safe. Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap. To our candidates, thank you so much. No matter what happens, service is a choice, and we thank you for serving and being willing to serve. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you. Feel free to sit and chat with the candidates, and most importantly, vote. You just need to vote. Thank you.
Let's hear it for our moderator.
Just watch me when I get up. Okay, don't watch. Just watch. Yeah, just watch me. Sure. I got it. Okay, great. Nice.
Our hands are good. Every time. Thank you.